guys in the dark.
So I only worked at McDonald's for about 3 months. This car had come through with 4 ghetto black guys. They received their massive order of $1 burgers. Before they drove off, they say, "Hey, you got a light?" "Yeah, sure." I give them my lighter. They light up a blunt right in the drive-thru. Valentine's Day. Who brings their date to McDonald's anyways? Well, mostly high schoolers, I guess. It was also next to a movie theater, so whatever. Then suddenly, this 50-year-old woman comes in by herself, orders 2 meals while repeatedly mentioning that her husband will be there any minute. He never came. I'm sure that he doesn't exist. It's pretty sad. Seeing homeless people come out of the forest drunk, pay for a few burgers and dimes and nickels, and then stumble back to the forest. One of the mornings that I worked, a car full of construction workers in a van, getting food before their shift, passing around a blunt. Personally, I find nothing wrong with weed. But seriously, what the fuck, guys? I had a nice, quiet, polite kid come about 3 times a week. Always brought his massive German Shepherd in the back. I'm sure that he got some burgers as well. There was one time that I also got screamed at by an old black guy because I didn't give him Splenda on the side. I mean literally screamed at. I've had 15 teenagers in the dining area being rowdy. Whatever. But they're cursing like maniacs. And there are quite a few little kids in our place. Our cheery shift manager asks politely for them to stop, but somehow makes her a stupid, ugly bitch. One time, this woman's food is going to take longer than expected. To keep up the times, we ask her to pull in a spot. I don't remember what she said. Basically, fuck shit. I'm not fucking moving from this spot. Another older woman had screamed at me because her Coke wasn't $1. That was the deal back then, but it's not part of a meal. Explain this. But she's still flapping around yelling and screaming at me. I wasn't even mad. Poker face. I had asked her, "Why are you seriously yelling at me over 79 cents? She gives me the nastiest smile. "I'd like to see your manager." They just up and gave it to her. There was absolutely no fight involved. You know that stereotype of getting a Diet Coke with a huge meal? Well, it's true. Best was when this rude 30-year-old troll of a man head came in. Large Big Mac with a Diet Coke. Sure, that'll stop the onset of type 2 diabetes, dude. He gets another Big Mac with it. Yes, I watched him eat it. And yes, he did eat it all. I can deal with the trailer trash and ghetto people. Rich suburb moms coming for frappes when we're the most condescending and rude people that I have ever dealt with. Some would seriously speak to me like I'm mentally challenged. Every day I would come home with at least one story like that. I mean every single day. There was not a day that was skipped. And this was the nicest McDonald's in the entire city. I have more stories. But I will leave it with these 3 things. Only 30% of people would say thank you. That's pretty unbelievable to me. I have so much patience for fast food workers, and if I need money that bad, I'll go back. But my God, there's nothing more demoralizing coming home from orientation, trying on your uniform. Yep, I'm really doing this. How the hell did I even get here? Right? I have worked a few jobs, and I've always been a top employee. I was terrible at McDonald's. Seriously, I was one of the worst workers there. I did get better, though, but it gave me an attitude check. So much harder than people make fun of it for. But yeah, anyways, I guess Diet Coke isn't a joke. So I work as a hostess at a nicer restaurant in a big college town. It was my first time working on a football game day. We were completely packed, and we were on a 3-hour wait list. That means the people were camping out at the tables until the game was over. A group of about 7 60 to 65-year-old men barged through the door. They completely ignored our hellos, and pushing through a crowd of 20 or so customers standing around and waiting, and drinking beer. Before they got too far past the foyer to hear me, I told them that if they would like a table, we could put their name on a list. One of the men turned back at me and literally sneered at me. I looked over at our door guy for some help, but he was trying to kick out a drunk mom, so it looked like I was on my own here. I finally got through the crowd, found the men sitting at the table that had literally just been cleared off. I remember taking a huge breath to steel myself before asking them to move, because I'm already put off by older men, and these guys were shit-faced on top of that. I said something like, "Excuse me, I just need to let you know that right now we're on a 3-hour wait list. There's about 20 groups waiting to be sat right now. If you don't mind getting up and heading back to the entrance so we can put your name on that list, that would be great. One of the guys stands up and is pretty much towering over me. I'm 5'1", by the way. He was roughly the height of a pine tree, intimidating a young girl. Classic move, dirtbag. Listen here, nobody told us that we'd have to wait. We're not moving from our spot. So I said, well, with all due respect, sir, you walked right past about 5 hostesses on your way in, and we did actually tell you that there was a wait. You just ignored us. So I'm telling you once again to make sure that you understand. The guy spit on the ground at this point, stares directly at me with the creepiest eyes in the world, and goes, I didn't hear any of you lazy cunts say anything to me. I'm pretty sure that I have never been any more indignant in my life. I remember being in complete shock, and just walked away. One of the servers had stopped me, saying that I looked like I had just seen a ghost. So I told him what happened. He stared open-mouthed at me, and told me to go tell our manager about it. So I did. Even though I was pretty embarrassed that I had tears in my eyes, I just assumed this sort of thing was normal on busy days like this, and that I just wasn't used to it yet. When I told him what had just happened, he got this look in his eyes that I have come to enjoy seeing, because it usually means that it's about to go down. It was pretty awesome to see. He had me point out which table they were at, walked up to them, and it said extremely calmly, nobody ever speaks to my employees like that, and nobody ever speaks to a woman like that. You crossed a line. Get the fuck out of my restaurant now. The guys were extremely pissed off, and said stuff like, we're alumni, we're important here, and you'll never get our business again, stuff like that. My boss says, I don't really give a fuck. Your money is worthless here. And then all goes well once again in the world. Honestly, my least favorite people in the world are middle-aged men that think that they are back in their fraternity house as soon as they arrive in their old campus. But my favorite people in the world are bosses who actually care about their employees and will stand up for what is right. I worked at Popeyes while in high school. With 10 minutes till closing one Friday night, a customer happened to pull up, orders a rather large amount of chicken and sides. In case you're wondering, they try to time these things out based on previous sales. So we A, did not have enough chicken to fill that order, and B, did not have enough side items to fill the order. So I tell the guy that it'll almost be 20 minutes to get this order together, because we would have to drop chicken in the fryer. Dude says that that's cool, pulls around after I gave him his total. I'm not happy about the event, since the cook was left for the night. So I have to fry the chicken, re-clean the fry station, open up new side items, bags and ingredients, update the cook's inventory sheet, since he had already left. Plus I'll be late, but whatever, it's a job. Dude comes to the drive-thru window. I slide the window back, tell him what his total is. This guy never turns his head towards me, keeps his eyes straight ahead, and proceeds to throw a wad of crumpled up cash and coins at my face. A snowball of dirt and change hits me straight in the face, when I hear him say, "Catch this." I stand there stunned while the currency falls to the floor, and watch in disbelief as he still looking out of his windshield, pulls the switch to roll up his window. The guy never even looks at me. Since it was almost closing time, I already counted my drawer, and now I'm going to have to bend over to pick up the bills and coins to ensure that my register amount is correct. Well, some of the dimes, nickels, and quarters rolled underneath the tables, which really sucked. Why? Because the floor still had the cleaning solvent put down since everyone was in cleanup mode when this had happened. So I'm a senior in high school, working Friday night, got hit in the face with balls of coins and cash, and now my panties are going to get wet the whole way home since this douchebag decided to try flinging money at me. 20 minutes go by. I start to bag up his order. I put the chicken box in. I put the mashed potatoes, dirty rice, and mac and cheese containers in. I pull back the ceiling lids on the top of the side items just slightly, and I approach the drive-thru window. Now the guy rolls his window down when I slide back the drive-thru window. He looks at me with a smile on his face because he is about to get his order. I sling the bag of fried chicken and side items as far as I could out of my window, through his window, and the bag explodes against his passenger side window. Mashed potatoes, dirty rice, and mac and cheese are everywhere now. I yelled "catch" when I did it. Maybe that will teach him to treat people better. If not, then, well, fuck him. He now has to clean his car. I worked at McDonald's before going to the university to help pay for things. as my foster parents didn't really have the means to help me out much. Anyways, there was this one man who had come through the drive-thru. He was late 30s, clearly a farmer from his vehicle, and his dog in the back. He was always nice enough, pretty quiet. I remember a couple of times that he tried to make nice small talk. When I worked either side of New Year's, he asked me about how things were, and said that I should be out having fun at my age. Asked if my Christmas was good, all that kind of stuff. I remember thinking that he always seemed real lonely, or was sad when he drove through, and tried to carry conversation with me. I felt bad having to be quick with him and dart off, because he just seemed like he wanted someone to talk to. Long story short, he drove through one day, and asked if my last name was what he thought it was. After a sideways glance from my manager, I said that it was. He looked real sad, and took his hat off. Said that he reckoned that he was my dad. My biological mother didn't know who my dad was. She slept around as a teenager, and then got pregnant with me. So it was possible. My manager let me go on break during this time. So over my dinner, he explains that he slept with my mother around the time that she had gotten pregnant. He was only 16 at the time. He was really apologetic, kind of seemed ashamed of it, and said that he was real sorry that he didn't seek me out, make sure that I wasn't his. You know, that sort of thing. He was from a town about an hour's drive away, so that was part of it. And no one ever showed up to tell him that he was a dad or anything like that. I told him I was happy with my life, gave him my number, and told him to give me a bell sometime. Yeah, that's how I met my dad. I should say after a few years, when I had heard from my bio mother again, she said that yeah, he was who she thought the father was. The other two guys she was sleeping with were just black, and I'm not. We went out for coffee 3 or 4 times, but we didn't have much to talk about. He and I never really maintained contact. The last time that we spoke, he told me that he'd been diagnosed with MS. He had a couple of sons, but I was his only daughter. And he said that he was grateful that we had met. He still got my number somewhere, so hopefully, if he's still around, he'll call me. I had a really weird experience with a drive-thru worker. He was being pretty weird. One early Saturday morning in high school, my buddy and I were blazing really hard. We started smoking right after school got out around 2:30 p.m. on Friday, and were rolling all the way until around 2 a.m. Saturday morning. We were gonzo as shit. And we were doing this marathon thing, trying to block the munchies. Every time one of us got an urge to eat, we'd force ourselves to take another rip to tide it off. Long story short, we were pretty toasted. We ended up caving around 2 o'clock in the morning, and driving around. I know, dumb to drive. To the nearest Burger King. We go through the drive-thru. It's totally dead. Not a soul or a car in the area. And we order a shit ton of food. We pull up to the cashier window. The cashier is in this older 50-ish-year-old dude who seems to be the only one in the entire restaurant working. He looks right at us, asks with the total sincerity, "You guys got herb?" My friend and I bust out laughing. We start denying it, naturally, but the man persisted and asked 3 more times. Eventually we caved in and said yeah, we did. He then propositioned us with as much free food as we wanted and could eat that morning if we split a blunt with him in the back. We naturally agreed, so we met him around the back near the dumpsters, rolled a paper, blazed the shit out of the back of the Burger King. We finished it. He proposes that we roll another one. We decline. He suddenly gets mad, starts charging at my buddy, trying to take the rest of the weed stash. I help him fight this rough BK worker off, and the guy is absolutely irate, yelling and shit, freaking out. We sprint back to the car and peel the fuck out of there. We looked back, and the dude was chasing us down the road on foot. Pretty wild, huh? I used to work at the infamous Ponderosa buffet as a line cook. Fun fact, you can actually order meals there, other than buffet. So with these so-called meals, you get a choice of side, either your french fries, baked potatoes. Well, one day, we got slammed with business, and completely ran out of baked potatoes, and had some in the oven started to cook. In walks this customer. He stands at an ample 6'4". He's a wide man, clad in denim, full of beefy desire in his heart. His mustache, thicker than Sam Elliott's. This is an American-made man. And for his time. His lips part, and out comes the words, "buffet and a ribeye." The host begins to speak, but is shut down. "With a baked potato, please." We're currently all out of potato. We can offer you... The man's face turns a shade of fuchsia. Not even a color that Crayola would name. His eyes bulge. His lips tighten. The air blowing in and out of his mouth creates a rippling tornado of absolute fury around him. No potatoes? No potatoes? He moves faster than anyone of his girth should ever, and ever has since. He pokes his angry face back into the kitchen. No potatoes? What's going on here at Ponderosa? No potatoes? You should be fired. He says all of this, waving a finger at me. His family had to pull him back to the front desk, him still hollering at me. He accepted the sad terms that we had to give him French fries. The kitchen was on the other side of the wall from the buffet line, so I walked around to see him eating his steak. He just ate it with pure spite. I've never seen anyone mow on a buttered, well-cooked steak with just pure hatred. He didn't even enjoy the buffet. He just sighed when he had to pick up the tongs, spoon ladle, like it wasn't enough. There will always be a baked potato-shaped hole in that fat man's heart, by the way. I do have a few favorites, both from Long John Silver's. The first one was when someone had came into the drive-thru. He was clearly high, and asked for a Big Mac. I told him that this is Long John Silver's, and we don't serve Big Macs at all. I could hear him and his friend discuss for a second. Then he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I guess make it a Whopper." Then, goddammit, it took some convincing for me to get him to understand, and in the end, he left without getting anything. Another time, this dude had flipped out because he had to wait too long for his chicken. He showed up about 10 minutes before closing time, and the 3 cars in front of him had also ordered family meals. Huge orders of chicken, and or fish, by the way. 2 of our 4 fryers were already shut down because it was so close to closing time, so we had to cook each car's order individually, since we can only cook about 20 to 25 pieces at one time. Once he had finally pulled up to the window, he was screaming and cursing for taking so long. I handed him his change. He threw it into his car full force, still screaming at me about how we were going to make him late for something drastically important, or something like that. I genuinely don't think that I've ever seen anyone that angry before, or since then. I handed him his food and drink, and asked if he wanted any sauce with that. He screamed at me for the sauces that he wanted, since he was already in a hurry. I just handed him the sauce directly. He took the handful from my hand, and he immediately threw it back at me, and then peeled out. The thing is, the drive-thru was just a lined area in the parking lot, so he really could have just left any time before he paid if he was in such a damn hurry. Another time was when some ginormous woman had come through and ordered 4 large family meals. And of course, there was an extra large Diet Coke, because that makes it okay to eat all that deep-fried shit on top of it, right? So I was a bit surprised that this woman was by herself, in her car, ordering so much food. She was really, really big, so I wasn't totally shocked by this, but it still seemed like quite a bit. So she pulls up. The car is just full of trash and all sorts of shit. This was before hoarders, so I had no idea that that was even a thing. But looking back, she was definitely a hoarder. There were food wrappers piled deep in the back seat. Cigarettes and ash overflowed from the ashtray, and a bunch of fucking stains. A nautically themed beanbag chair in the passenger seat. So after she had paid, I handed her the food and the drink. Out of nowhere, an arm appears from the beanbag chair and then grabs the drink. I leaned down to get a better look, and sure enough, it was actually just a dude even larger than the driver. It was genuinely shocking that the two of them even fit in the same car with the doors closed. I mean, come to think of it, the car was pretty tiny, so I'm not even sure how they even got in. It was about 9:30 at night, so the store was nearly closed. A car had pulled up, and I greeted them several times with no response. I eventually waited for them to just decide what they were ready to eat, which happens often. The person behind them got impatient, and decided that honking wasn't enough to make them move. I watched on the camera as this lady backed her car up and floored it to rear end the guy at the order box. Redneck and some lady immediately get out of their cars and start hurling vulgar things at each other. Meanwhile, I'm laughing because I can hear the whole conversation going down. "Are you out of your freaking mind, lady? Dumbass redneck. This isn't your squalor hole. You don't have all night. Some of us want some chicken." Things like that. My manager called the cops when they started pushing each other around. That was one of the 4 wrecks that I saw in our drive-thru. I've seen 4 people accidentally rear-end someone while checking their bag. along with 2 flat tires, 3 cars that died, so we had to push them out of the way. I've seen a girl getting fingered, and a guy getting a hand job, and a girl that clearly had just finished giving a blowjob. I've seen a few dudes rolling some joints. I've seen a woman without any underwear on, and her skirt happened to be up. Also, one time, a lady had came through and demanded that I gave her a shake that she didn't get with her meal when she had came through 11 months ago. I've had to deal with some wild stuff while working at drive-thrus. I used to work at Wendy's. Once a woman had came up and gave me the most complicated, ridiculous order that I have ever heard. She was so indecisive and couldn't decide what she wanted and kept changing things up. Plus, we had the oldest cash register in Wendy's history. It was from the 60s. I'm not kidding. It took 5 buttons just to order a small drink. Finally, she had finished. I ran through her order with her step by step, and she approved it. It took us a while to get the order done. It was close to an $85 order. I reviewed her receipt step by step once again, made sure everything was in the bags, and gave her the food. 15 minutes later, she comes storming in, holding a bag of fries, saying that this isn't what I ordered, you stupid bitch. Did you even finish high school? Or are you a pathetic dropout, drug-dealing idiot? You're so beyond incompetent. I ordered 7 large fries, not 6. Give me my other fucking fry before I set you on fire. I really wish that I was overreacting. I'll never forget those words. Side note, I was an honor student at a Big Ten university at the time. I was just shocked. One of my coworkers took the fries out one at a time and counted them. There were 7. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it involved asking the woman where the fuck she learned to count. I'll always be respectful to people that work in fast food. Always.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.